So I got excited today when I realized that it was the equinox, but then I realized that it is actually not the equinox. It's never too late to celebrate the equinox. See, this is appropriate because of the connections between beer and agricultural societies. So my interest in the equinox is related to pseudoarchaeology, not just drinking. Let's look at some comments. All right, my last video where I just riffed on my upcoming Ancient Aliens presentation a little bit. 5 comments. I had several new subscribers. Welcome, new subscribers. Thank you. Is there a way that we can tune into your presentation? This is about the Ancient Aliens presentation that I will be giving at the end of the month. I don't think that you will be able to tune in, but I'm pretty sure they're going to post it later. So, assuming it's not a total train wreck, Michael6090 writes, oh, this is going to be a good one. Aliens are demons. They will blame rapture on aliens. We are in the end times. Also, Jesus is the only way. Jesus is coming. Rapture soon. Jacob, Romans, King James Version. Okay, so I feel the same way I think about demons as I do about aliens. So I agree with you there. I'm not worried about either because right now both are imaginary. I'm not worried about demons or lizard men or Bigfoot or any of the boogeymen getting me because none of that stuff is real. All right, Jakey Blades 9423 says, first time I've seen one of your videos. I like your personality. Hey, that's one. I have one person that likes my personality. That's a start. Just one at a time. We're going to build this one at a time. You and me, Jakey Blades. Have you listened to some of the military whistleblowers and debunked them? That must be the ones that are talking about UFOs. You know, I kind of barely paid attention to those hearings. So no, I can't say that I really put a lot of thought into it. Possibly you would give credence to some like Paul Helior, who is the defense minister of Canada, or perhaps you believe there is intelligent life out there. All right, let's stop there because I see where he's going with the next part. So yeah, you know, Drake equation, sure. I have no problem believing there is intelligent life out there. What my problem is, and I actually have no problem believing that intelligent life might have visited this planet at some time in the past, might even be visiting it now. My problem is with the evidence. So I'm an archaeologist, I study the human past, and I can tell you that I have not seen one shred of evidence that convinces me at all that ancient aliens had anything to do with the human past in terms of the monuments, the culture, the technology, any of that stuff. It's all bullshit. So that's where I'm at. And until somebody shows me evidence for that, that's where I'm going to remain. So you have to have some kind of positive evidence. Does that mean that we were not visited by space aliens at some point? No, we certainly could have been. I presume that probabilistically they should exist. Do I think that they were so intertwined with our culture and had all these effects? No, I don't, because there's no evidence for it. It's a bunch of flim flam, and the people who push those ideas are entertainers. That's it. And you know, I can think of a lot of pieces of positive evidence that I would accept to demonstrate to me that ancient aliens were here. You could find a real artifact. You could find a crashed spaceship. You could find something that we could not explain any other way. And the problem with all of the pieces of evidence put out by ancient aliens, they all have mundane explanations. All of them. There is nothing I've ever seen on that program that makes me think, you know, that's a real tough one. I really think that must have been aliens. It just doesn't work that way. It never has. You have to want to believe it, which is part of the pseudoscience. You accept things that articulate with your belief system, and you have no critical mechanism for throwing out pieces of information that don't make any sense, that don't hold up to scrutiny. And the things that I have scrutinized, which is by far not everything on that program, the things that I have scrutinized, they all fall apart. All of them. Uh, he goes on to say, I had heard that there are all kinds of news articles in the 40s and 60s of giant bones being dug up and taken to the Smithsonian Institution, never to be seen again. Keep up the good work. Not so many in the 1940s and 1960s, tons of them in the late 1800s. And I have written extensively about that. More than anything else on my blog, back when it was active, I talked about giant skeletons. And I have looked into many of these accounts in great detail. Just like the ancient alien stuff, they almost all fall apart really quickly. And the ones where you're left with a little bit of intrigue or, you know what, maybe there could be something there, um, the trail goes cold. So, do I think that this landscape of North America was dotted with the burials of giants? No, I do not. There are a lot of ways to explain those accounts. The accounts are real. The accounts did appear in all these newspapers. Does that mean that the accounts are accurate? No, no, it doesn't. And so I've written a lot about that. And the whole thing about the Smithsonian Institution, it's a ridiculous way to explain a lack of evidence. If there used to be a worldwide race of giants, how do you explain what happened to all the evidence that would exist of those giants in places where the Smithsonian Institution is not able to go and hide the bones? What about things that were excavated before the existence of the Smithsonian Institution? Let's look up when the Smithsonian Institution, that's hard to say over and over again. Smithsonian Institution. Let's look up when the Smithsonian Institution was founded. Smithsonian Institution, founded in 1846. All of those giant skeletons that were dug up in Europe and Arabia, Eastern Asia, Africa, before 1946, what happened to all those? Did the Smithsonian somehow travel back in time and confiscate those also? No. It makes absolutely no sense. But if you want to believe in giants, you have to have a way to explain the lack of evidence for them. And so you create a boogeyman, the Smithsonian Institution, that is this quasi governmental agency, the men in black who come and take all the giant bones away. It's ridiculous. There's a lot more to it than that. I'm being a little bit dismissive and glib right now, but we can't actually explain what happened to a lot of these. And there's a lot of really interesting historical stories that go along with, a giant skeleton that was later determined to be that of a mastodon, or there's measurement errors. There's stories that clearly people just made up. There are things that got interpreted. There are kind of telephone game examples where the stories kept getting wilder and wilder, and you trace it back to the original article. And anyway, the proliferation of this stuff, and the resurgence in the belief in it is interesting from a cultural perspective. But no, I don't think there's anything there either. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Okay. Leaf 742. Have you ever seen the Bone Tomahawk movie? I feel like once you figure out the myth making system behind Bigfoot, you kind of get how other modern myths and pseudoscience works and becomes popular. Bone Tomahawk movie. I don't know what that is. Western horror. I wonder if there's a trailer on YouTube. Let's watch it. Here we go. Kurt Russell's in it. Bunch of guys in their Western wear. There's Kurt Russell and his bowler. He's going to go out and find the bad guys. I don't know what this has to do with Bigfoot yet, but I'm going to reread the question. Have you ever seen the Bone Tomahawk movie? I feel like once you figure out the myth making system behind Bigfoot, you kind of get how other modern myths and pseudoscience works and become popular. Maybe those two parts of the comment are not actually connected. Maybe the Bone Tomahawk movie is not supposed to have anything to do with Bigfoot. I didn't see any Bigfoots in there. So, no, I have not seen the Bone Tomahawk movie. Um, the Bigfoot example is interesting to me, I think, not because I think there's anything to it, but I feel like I feel like when I was kind of getting into the Bigfoot stuff a little bit, I kind of feel like Bigfooting and Bigfootery is kind of similar to where the stuff with giants was in the late 1800s. Like there's a lot of weird parallels, and you can kind of see, especially in the internet age, you can kind of see misinformation being created and proliferating in real time. And you can see people that are so willing to believe anything that resonates with what they want to be true that just the critical thinking is completely absent. Anyway, more on that later. John Paul Jones says, do you ever check in on the Broad River site? So the Broad River site was the site that I ran 3 years of field schools at when I was teaching in South Carolina. There's a bunch of videos on my page. I used to do weekly videos updating the excavations. No, I don't live in South Carolina anymore. I switched states, switched jobs. So I do not check in on it. I am almost done with a publication on it, which will just be, a pretty dry site report. So that was one of those sites, great site, great landowners. Could have worked there for a long time, but my life changed and I moved. So I hope that somebody else continues working there someday. So anyway, thank you for the comments. Demons, UFOs, Bone Tomahawk movie, Broad River site, all kinds of good stuff. Stay tuned. What was my? I forget my. If you didn't know, now you know. If you didn't know, now you know. Stay safe out there, everybody.